Hello, YouTube. I'm back with 5 things. It took much longer than I thought to get to my 5 items this time around. Actually, it took really fast to get to 4, and then the 5th one took a while. It was like a straggler coming along, but when you get old kids, reading becomes hard because you read one page and you're like, then you wake up, you read the same goddamn page, you're like, and then you just keep doing that over and over until you're like, fuck it, and then you throw the book across the room, and then the next day you gotta find where you were. And it's great getting old. Anyways, I digress. I could go on about that forever and ever, but instead we're gonna go on about these 5 things for about 20 minutes. First up, a movie called The Velocipastor. Where did I learn about this? I was searching for movies online and it just came up as one of those, oh, suggested for you. You might like this because you were looking for this. And I really liked this. It was a good suggestion, whichever website that was. So this is a 2017 movie, like a B horror movie that's just a very ridiculous plot, ridiculous acting, ridiculous effects, and it's meant to be that way, right? And it's fucking awesome. So the story is that this Roman Catholic priest, I think his name is Doug Jones, if I remember correctly, he's going about his life, doing his sermons and stuff, and then one day his parents are coming to visit him in town, and they're across the street waving at him. They just got there in their car. Boom! Car bomb. Car explodes. Parents are dead. After that, Doug's seriously questioning his relationship with the Lord and whether he even believes anymore after witnessing his parents killed in front of him. So Father Stewart, the guy that kind of oversees their church, is like, you know what? Go to China. Go on a trip. Just go get lost. And if God's still with you, he'll find you there, sort of thing, right? So Doug's like, yeah, I'll travel. That's a good idea. So he goes to China. He's in like the forest somewhere, just kind of backpacking and whatever. And then all of a sudden there's this girl running through the forest and she's being chased by people and shot at with arrows and whatnot. And she's killed right in front of Doug's eyes, and she passes him this artifact and she's like, don't let them have this. And it looks like some sort of claw. Velociraptor claw, perhaps. Doug takes it from her. He's like, okay, and he starts running, but not before he cuts himself on the palm with this artifact, and eventually he's chased by these ninjas, but he's eventually rescued and taken to safety. And eventually he makes his way back to the church, and he's having kind of these nightmares or whatever, these thoughts and stuff about what happened, and he just can't quite seem to grasp some sort of changes that are coming over him. And later on, he during the night, I think it is, this claw imbued him with the ability to turn into a velociraptor. So he's like half man, half raptor sort of thing. So he goes to the park one night, and he witnesses a prostitute being, mugged or whatever. So he turns into his velociraptor form and offs this guy that did it, right? And wakes up in the morning with after he kind of passes out after this incident or whatever, wakes up in the morning in this prostitute's bed, and she's like, oh, thank you so much. I can't believe what I saw last night. What was that? Blah blah blah. And him being a priest and a prostitute, like, whatever, right? So he's trying to come to terms with this weird new lifestyle he has. Well, this prostitute, whose name is Carol, has taken a liking to Doug, and she's like, you should use your ability to do just what you did last night. Kill bad people, sort of thing, right? So, and he's like, no, I can't. I'm a priest. I'm a good person. I can't just kill, even if they are bad people. So then he goes back to church, and he's in the confessional, and this guy comes in who's actually Carol's pimp. And he's like, oh, Father, I've been here in a while. I got a lot of sins to confess, right? So he starts confessing sins, one of which is the car bombing of his parents, Doug's parents. So naturally, Velocipastor, pimp is dead, and Doug's like, okay, I'm on board with this. This is a good idea, right? So then they go on killing bad people, and they develop this relationship where they start to love each other. But trouble comes finding them when this clan of ninja drug dealers from across the pond come looking for trouble, and Doug and Carol have to respond in kind and eventually face down these new enemies, sort of thing. And that's kind of where the story ends. But I've heard that they're doing a second one, and if they are, I'm on board. This movie was ridiculous, but it was so good in its ridiculousness, and the soundtrack was amazing. They had a few songs in there that were kind of like by these weird punk alternative bands that were just kind of heavy and slow and just really good songs. So I looked up a bunch of those afterwards, and Carol is hot. I really enjoyed the actress that played that character. So good purchase all around. Next up, finally got around to watching Thor: Love and Thunder. I'd heard mixed reviews on this, mostly bad. I didn't mind it. It was definitely a different kind of take on Thor. I mean, at first he was so serious in the movies, and then he started to lighten up a little bit. But in this one, he's just a funny guy all around, right? So it's kind of this progression of his character, and I think people had a problem with him going from so serious and straight-laced to what he was in this movie. But I didn't mind it. The story is it starts off with this emaciated, kind of bald, like salty white-skinned guy out in the desert with his young daughter, and they're trekking across the desert. They're on the death's door, sort of thing. And his daughter, his name is Gore, her name is Love, and Love eventually passes away due to probably dehydration, whatever, starvation. And Gore has been looking for the gods that they pray to. His name is Rapu or something like that. And eventually he stumbles upon this glade where the god presents himself with his little minions. And Gore is like, "Oh, I found you. We're ready to go to the promised land. We suffered for you." And the god's just like, disdain for you, subject. And there's a sword in the clearing where somebody else, it's called the Necro Sword, which is capable of killing gods. And there was obviously a body on the ground. Someone had been trying to come and kill these gods beforehand. And well, Gore is being kind of manhandled by this god Rapu. After they have this confrontation, the Necro Sword calls to Gore, and he uses it to off this god and gain this kind of new power to manipulate shadows, create shadow monsters, kind of shadow travel, that sort of thing. And so he vows, after this interaction with this god he used to be so loyal to, who turned out to be such a prick, he vows himself to rid the world of all gods. So he ends up starting a rampage where he's going around killing gods, and that's where Thor comes in. He is contacted by Sif, I believe, and at this point Thor is still with the Guardians of the Galaxy following events from previous movies. And so they kind of part ways, and Thor and I forget, he's like the guy that's made of stone, I forget his name, they go off on their own to find out what's going on with this Gore character, as they hear he's going to eventually be marching on New Asgard to take down the Asgardian gods. So in the meantime, well, Thor is starting to investigate this dead god phenomenon. Jane Foster, his old love from the Earth realm, has found out she has terminal cancer, stage 4, and not much time left for her. So she gets an idea to go to New Asgard and use Thor's old hammer, which was broken into a million pieces, to maybe try and stave off the cancer. So later on, when Thor catches up with Gore in this New Asgardian village, I believe it was, another Thor suddenly shows up, and he's like, "What the fuck, is that my old hammer? Like, who are you?" And then he finds out it's Jane, and he's like, oh, he's so confused, right? So the two of them kind of work together to fend Gore off, and after that, it's kind of the two of them and Thor's rock friend. It starts with a K, I can't remember. As they try and find a way to kill this guy who seems so unkillable, right? And at the same time dealing with their past relationship troubles and the fact that Jane is dying of cancer, and that by using her Thor powers it actually drains her faster. So they're coming to terms with dealing with that situation. So eventually they come up with a plan to, they need Zeus's help. So they go to talk to Zeus, gain an audience, try and get him to help out. But Zeus is like, disdain, disdain, disdain. So Thor takes the fight to Zeus and those gods. And in the end, eventually, there's a final showdown between the two Thors and Gore, and of course, I'm not going to tell you how it ends, but there is a bit of sadness involved, which is very much too bad. Why does Natalie Portman always have to die in movies, right? At least the important ones. Sorry, I spoiled it. Spoiler alert. Next up, a TV series I didn't know existed until recently, when again I was searching for something online and it kind of came up. Based on an old NES video game and arcade game that I love to death, Double Dragon, the complete animated series. I believe this ran between 1993 and 94, if I remember correctly, and consists of 26 episodes, the normal 22-minute runtime, whatever that average was back then, and features the main characters from the Double Dragon games, Billy and Jimmy Lee, the brothers, as they defend the city against the Shadow Master and his minions. So it's loosely based on the game. So basically, Jimmy grew up. They're twin brothers. They got split up at birth. Jimmy grew up in a good environment under the tutelage of the old master, whereas Jimmy was taken in by the Shadow Master, an evil fiend who's just out for his own personal gain, and brought up as his second in command, known as the Shadow Boss. So Billy and Jimmy were actually always at odds with each other for the longest time, and they were both martial arts masters, of course, until Shadow Master betrays Jimmy, and Jimmy's finally like, "Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, he's a prick, and you're the good guy. So you know what? Brothers reunite, right?" So then they reunite and they take the fight together to the Shadow Master and all of his minions. So they become honorary members of like the city's police force. They end up running a dojo where they train people in the city. The arts of the dragon, whatever they call their form of martial arts. It's always something to do with dragons. Just generally fight the good fight. So the cartoon is that standard kind of 90s animation, the regular type of animation. It wasn't computer generated or anything like that. And it was a good show, but it wasn't, a great show or anything. The animation was really good. I kind of wish they'd stuck closer to the actual game storyline and stuff. There was a couple characters in the game early on, like one of the most recognizable enemies you fight in Double Dragon is a Bobo. He's just a big meathead muscle guy with this giant round bald head, and he's actually in it in I think the first episode or two, or maybe just the first episode, before he's sucked into some sort of mural or something like that, and we never see him again. So all the characters in the series, other than the main characters, Billy and Jimmy and the Shadow Master, are all new for the cartoon. They're not based on game characters. So in a way, it's nice to do something new and not just rehash the game, but at the same time, I wish they'd stuck a little closer to the game and had the same characters for the enemies and stuff in there. I thought that would have been better, but either way, it was a good cartoon and I enjoyed watching it, especially since I didn't even know it existed. It was just nice to find something like that available, right? So overall good, but could have been better. Last up is a couple of books. The first one up is the second in the Garbage Pail Kids trilogy, called Thrills and Chills. So this one starts off with the Garbage Pail Kids, the 10 of them that we talked about in the first book from last review. Living at home, and all of a sudden, an escaped hippopotamus from the zoo stumbles across their home. And of course they take this hippopotamus in, and not long afterwards, Peter and Patty Perfect, the annoying twin neighbors, that are always so perfect in winning everything, come over with their new dog, Good Boy, who is a perfect pet. He can sing, dance, he can do everything dogs normally don't do. And so they're coming over to rub this in their face because they're like, we're going to win the Smellville talent or pet talent show tomorrow. So don't you even try to enter, right? We always win, and we're just showing you how good we are, so you won't even enter. So afterwards, the Garbage Pail Kids are all pissed off because they hate always seeing the perfect twins win and always be better than them. So they're like, what can we do to win this talent competition or this pet talent competition and finally put the perfect straight? And they're like, oh, we'll dress up our new hippo as a dog and put him in it, right? So that's the plan. So they go to the pet show, and things unfold. Good Boy does his act. Rob Slob Jr., which is what they named their hippo dog, does his act. And as they're about to give out the award for the winner, just before that can happen, 5 new kids show up with their cat, and these kids look just like the Garbage Pail Kids, and they even call themselves the Garbage Pail Kids. So they're almost like a rival gang of Garbage Pail Kids. There's five of them, like I said. There's Windy Winston, Ned Nerd or something like that, Nat Nerd, something like that, Brett Sweat, Disgustin' Justin, and Nasty Nancy. So we got 5 new Garbage Pail Kids. They're like, we're going to put our cat in the show, and he's going to win. So then they put their cat in the show. He does his act, but all chaos kind of erupts. And so the mayor, who's judging the contest, goes, all right. All 3 of you factions win. You're all winning the grand prize, which is a day at the amusement park, which I forget what it's called now. So, and they're all like, fucking right. But in the process, they turn this day at the amusement park into another competition about which group of kids can have the most fun. So they begin competing against each other so much that they end up, for various different reasons, not making the bus ride to the park about 3 or 4 times in a row before they're finally even able to get to the park. And once they're there, they're all trying to outdo each other and booby trap each other and that sort of thing. And in the end, the principal and the teacher all get fed up. So they say, you know what? It's a 3-way tie. All of you had the most fun. And guess what your prize is? You get to walk home. The end. Garbage Pail Kids ridiculousness is what that is. Oh my God. It's so funny. It's so ridiculous. I love the Garbage Pail Kids. And I know that these books are for like 8-year-olds, but call me an 8-year-old then. Last up, another book in the Marvel series. This is from the School of X branch of books. And it is called Dazzler, Sound of Light. I've always heard of Dazzler before, but I've never really had much in the way of actually reading or watching any sort of story with her involved. So this was nice to actually get to see what she's all about. So Dazzler is a mutant who has the ability to store energy, and its output comes as like flashes of light and stuff like that. So she can blind people. She can cause people to pass out with overwhelming them, kind of like with all the visuals and stuff, right? So and she can store energy. She gains her energy from sonic impulses, so like listening to music, some sort of loud big event. Those kind of things are what fuel her. So she's we pick up with her. She's just finished a gig with her band. She is living the rock star lifestyle because music is her passion. And not long after the show, she's approached by an agent from S.H.I.E.L.D., which was thought to be defunct, but there's actually a splinter kind of branch still operational. He comes to her to try and enlist her help to work with S.H.I.E.L.D. because her father has gone missing. Her father's not a mutant or anything. He's just a judge or something like that. And a couple of other people have gone missing. A couple. Magneto and Cyclops. 2 very important people. So they're like, we don't know if this is connected. We don't know what's going on. Can you work with us to try and find out and whatever? So Dazzler, who has been burned before, is very gun shy about working with them, but she wants to find her father. So she says, okay, I'll just play my cards close to my chest. I'll do it, and I'll see how this goes, right? She wants to work alone, but instead she is assigned a team. One of them is named Sage, who has worked with Emma Frost very closely and loves Emma Frost. And I forgot, Emma Frost is in on this mission as well. And Dazzler does not trust her at all. So Sage is on her team. Sage has like the ability, her brain's like a supercomputer. She sees something once, she's memorized it. She's just very smart. And the other two are Polaris, who is the daughter of Magneto and has similar types of powers, the ability to manipulate metal and whatnot. And then Rachel Gray, who is Cyclops' daughter, and they don't have a great relationship. And she has telepathic abilities like her mom, Jean Grey. So Dazzler is working with this team of mutants who she doesn't trust. She's working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and Emma Frost, who she doesn't trust, all trying to find her father. So the going is very, very rough. And as they go about trying to track down leads and whatnot, they keep running into these almost ambushes, it seems. And she's like, somebody's feeding people information. They know what's happening and they know where we're going to be, which just sows even more distrust on the team. And Dazzler is mistrustful of people because she was kidnapped by Mystique and used to she was experimented on, and her DNA was extracted and turned into like a mutant steroid called MGH, mutant growth hormone, which can be used by both mutants and humans to greatly increase their strength and speed and physical abilities, right? So the fact that she was kidnapped by Mystique and held for so long and experimented on like this, she's got trust issues, to say the least. Soon enough, they find out the disappearance of these people are related to the MGH. So this intrigues her even more. And eventually they track down what's happening. A mutant named Sebastian Shaw, who used to work with Emma Frost, who is now opposed to Emma Frost, is planning. He's got this group called the New Earth Alliance or something like that, who want to wipe out all mutants on Earth and get rid of them all. So they want to use this MGH steroid to bulk up regular humans to be able to fight the mutants and just eradicate them. And in order to do so, they are staging their preparations in another dimension. So basically Dazzler and her team, after finding a trust and coming together through all these events, after figuring out exactly what's going on, have to embark on a mission to go to another dimension and face down a mutant who is almost unbeatable. Sebastian Shaw's power is that he absorbs kinetic energy and can throw it right back at you. So if you shoot him with a bunch of lasers, they're coming right back at you, sort of thing, right? So he's a really tough mutant to tackle. So not only do they have all of his goons to go up against, but they have to deal with him as well. So, but Dazzler is convinced that she cannot let the MGH get on the streets because she can't. She wants mutants to survive first and foremost, but she also wants to put a stop to the MGH because she doesn't want anybody else, any other mutant, to go through what she did at the hands of Mystique so long ago. So that's what the story is all about. It was great to get an insight into Dazzler's character and what she's all about, as well as other characters like Polaris and Rachel Gray and those guys. Like, I'd never heard of them before either. So to get a kind of introduction to them as well is the more you know, the better off you are, even if it's only about comic books. So knowledge is power, all types of knowledge. Until next time, toodaloo. Meow.